Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Championship Leadership Podcast. And I'm excited. We got LIZ THERESA here today. Liz, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so stoked. And what a cool name for a show. I love that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. When I first heard that name, it was a coach and friend of mine. We were thinking about names and talking about starting the podcast. And he said Championship Leadership. And at first I was kind of hesitant. I was like, it's because it's like ship, right? And
It's a lot of ships.
I wasn't sure. Yeah, it's a lot of ships, but it's definitely grown on me. Like I totally like it and love it now. So
I like the hype. It's like a hype name. You're like,
it's Championship Leadership. Let's go.
Let's go.
So, well, with that in mind, what comes to mind for you when you hear Championship Leadership? What does that mean to you when you hear that?
I think of winning, which is always really fun, only just because of championship. So it's having success at stepping into the leader that you're supposed to be, I think. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And, championship winning. Yes. For me also just like, just being like, committed to winning or committed to being the best, even though you don't. I think that's a big part of the journey for all of us, right? Is sometimes we do take those lumps on the way on our journey to winning and keeping that all in perspective too. Definitely a big piece of that. We were just talking before we came on with everything going on right now. So whenever you listen to this, for the last 2 or 3 months, I've been kind of giving this segue to like, hey, we're going through COVID right now, crazy times. And now no one's really talked about COVID in a week or two. And of course, we're going through the riots, the protesting, and unfortunately, some of the rioting and looting that's come with that as well around the George Floyd death in Minneapolis. And so we're going through that. So it's very interesting times. And, championship leadership, I think, is a big piece to anytime you're going through these times is to have leadership and to bring, I think a big piece also around championship leadership would be to be able to bring people together, like all different kinds of people together during times like this to hopefully, grow, learn from it, and like continue to move our society forward as well. What have you been experiencing during these interesting times?
I think what I've noticed, and this would be like an observation of myself and other professionals that like my colleagues and stuff that also own businesses, is that there's a lot of pause about how to be a leader during this time as a white person. And so it's a matter of the way that I'm kind of in this moment, my experience, and this is to not make it about me, but this is to convey and communicate what my experience has been, is that I'm trying to learn. So like, I've been using this as a moment to be like, okay, how can we all be better? How can we all take responsibility for the privilege that we do have? And although I'm not at all an expert on it, I guess I'm really proud to say that I'm using this as a learning moment. That although a tragedy, I'm happy to be expanding, my mind and learning about the proper ways to communicate. Because I think maybe, and this kind of goes back to leadership, but I think one of the hardest things about this is that it's a hard time to show up. And leadership is showing up. And so the way that shows up in my work is that I also help people, be visible. So that's part of my work. And so I've been trying to find, and I have a client that teaches on this, and I'm hoping that she'd be willing to do a webinar, but to teach leaders how to show up and serve during this time. So what my client, her name is Nancy, and I won't say where she's from because I don't want to throw her under the bus if she says no, because I'm hoping she'll say yes, but she teaches on diversity and inclusion. Usually she'll do talks at companies, but I'm hoping with this day and age that she'll do a webinar that I could hopefully share with other leaders, white leaders, that can teach us how to show up and serve and be better, just basically be better. Because I think it goes beyond, and I make websites and stuff. I don't know if you might know, well, you know that because you looked me up and stuff. And I want my work in this to go beyond when I make a website, thinking about like what stock photos to use to make sure I'm being inclusive. Because I do that stuff already. Like I am trying to be inclusive with the visual, but
Yeah.
also be inclusive in messaging. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it is difficult right now to show up as a leader and know how to show up. And especially with social media, I really put my thoughts out there for the first time today, you know, and I've seen some people message like on social media too. It's like one was last night. It was to my white friends. I am watching and taking notes of those that are like not saying anything. Right. And I'm
Yeah.
like, man, I definitely don't, I just do not agree with that.
Well,
There's a
because I'm
reason
trying to
that people don't say
listen.
anything. They don't know what to say. They see
Yeah.
how when people do say things, how out of context or twisted they can become, how highly emotional people are right now, not
Mm,
knowing what to say or do, being afraid to say anything or do anything because of the reaction, especially nowadays. You know, if you say one thing, it's automatically like you just chose a side, and now there are sides, and why
right.
does there have to, you know, it's just so many things. There's so many reasons that I disagree with that. But I
Well, I
think the
don't
big
want to
reason
create more
people don't,
division. Like
yeah,
you're saying, it
exactly.
can create more division. And I think the people that are quiet, right? I think it's not that they're not doing anything. I think
They
it's
could
that they're
very well
trying
be
to
out
listen.
protesting. They could very well
Yeah, we don't
be
know.
out like helping clean up the streets. Like you have no idea just because they're not making a
Mm,
post to social media.
right.
A lot of people
Yeah.
just don't even put their opinions on social media to begin with.
Yeah, if they were
Um,
posting about donuts instead, I guess you could
yeah,
have a problem.
yeah, right. Well,
Maybe now is not the
and is
time to
that wrong
post
or
your
right
cute.
too? Yeah,
I
like
don't know.
there's that too. It's like, can I not post about anything other than what's going on
That's a
right
good
now just because of
question.
that? I'm like,
Yeah.
I, I, I get it a little bit, but at the same
Yeah.
time, you know, I'm not going to get mad at somebody if they post about donuts and maybe bring a little, whatever, joy or
Yeah, I
humor
always
to our
like
life.
donuts.
So yeah, who doesn't like donuts, right? I love donuts.
I'm like, I guess maybe donuts are okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we've decided that that's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
But so, yeah, so it is, it's not always easy to be a leader.
Mm,
And to that point, I think, you know, many people will, everyone leads differently. Like there is no one way to lead. And so, so I think there are many different ways you can do it. And so it doesn't have to look a certain way. So it's
mm,
okay if you're not posting to social media. Maybe you're doing something else. Maybe you're just leading your family and having great conversations with them and you're starting there. And that's enough, right? Like, because now you're having that conversation with your kids and hopefully maybe that rolls over to their kids becoming someone and good to society and being a good leader. And now they're impacting more people too, right? So again, it's just, it doesn't have to look any certain way to me. And that holds true for leadership because there's lots of great different leaders that have led in so many different ways based
mm.
on who they are, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, well, let's hear a little bit more about you so the listeners can get a feel for who you are, what's the path that you've been on inside of your life, and kind of what has taken you to, you know, what you're up to today.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. I've been at this, and I'll explain a little bit about what I do, but I've been in business since 2011, working mostly online. And so when we had to quarantine, it wasn't that weird because I never usually see my clients in person. Like
Yeah,
I would go out, the things I would do in the public world would be like networking lunches and networking dinners. I kind of don't miss the networking as much
yeah,
because it's one of those necessary things that you kind of have to do, or that I guess that I tell myself I have to do, so I do it. And I think so that part has been pretty seamless. What I do is I help people rise and be the star of their business. That's what I like to say, help people do. And the way that I do it is through website design, branding, and business mentorship. So I help you show up in your business if you feel visibility is like a thing that you've been struggling with. And sometimes around visibility, it can be like, the underlying thing, right? Could be like, I'm afraid of showing up, or like, because what if, right? And of course, right, it's kind of goes back to what we were talking about now,
yeah,
especially now people are afraid to show up. But I think even in regular day to day, people are afraid to show up, like just because they could say something somebody doesn't like about donuts. I mean, they could say something somebody doesn't like all the time. And I
yeah,
think that can often be like one of the mindset blocks that some of my clients do have. Or it could be, I know I want to show up, I just don't know how or what to say when I get there. that can be a larger question. So when people come to me, it's around visibility. They're not happy with whatever their current online presence is like. And then in talking with me, we come up with a plan to be like, okay, if you're going to give me your money, here's what we should do, to make sure that we help you show up in a way that makes you feel really confident. And so you are the star of your business and you're a star in your space, and you're not just accepting like, a secondary role or like playing it safe or being hidden. You're not hiding behind a big brand either. That's something that some of my clients do, is they'll be like, I have a big, beautiful business, but the business is over there, right? And I have my thoughts over here, and I'm not communicating or showing up in the business. And that's kind of a problem too. And so your marketing and your messaging, like the best marketing and the best messaging comes from the owner's heart. And it really sounds like you, even if it is a bigger business. And that's because I feel like your audience, they smell authenticity. They can pick up on that. And so that's something that I get really excited to help people do.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's great. And there's a lot of people that need that help. And even that coaching. And I bet a lot of it probably is a bit of coaching and mentoring too, right? To get them to be like, hey, it's okay to take this stand and to get that message out to who you are, so more people know who you are, and you can help more people that way. So
yeah, I mean, I don't call it coaching, but it's very coachy.
Right. Which is great. We need coaches.
I think so. I think every coach needs a coach. I have a coach.
So I get it. If you're a coach and you don't have a coach, like
it's the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
I tell my clients all the time, if your coach doesn't have a coach, like run the other way and go find somebody that does, right? Because if it ever gets to the point where they just feel like they have it figured out, then they kind of stop progressing too. So
there's no moment definitely. Where that ever, I don't know when that will happen, because I keep raising you'll keep raising your own bar.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least I do.
Yeah. So speaking to that, like, who are some of the people that have impacted you as championship leaders, coaches, mentors, that and more so, like, what is it about them as a leader that has really stood out to you, like the characteristics, and how has that maybe even helped to shape and mold the leader that you are?
Oh, this is such a good question. And I think in business anyway, like in professionally, however you're moving, even if it's not a coach you hire, there's always people that you meet that will take you to another level, hopefully. The universe will guide you that way. And circumstance will guide you that way. When I was starting my business, like, I actually made a friend on Twitter who ended up being like my first mentor.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. Yeah. And this was 2011. Awesome. And I had messaged her and I was like, what is social media marketing? Because I was like, it was so new then. Because 2011.
It was, yeah, totally.
Twitter was only 2 years old and Facebook business pages were 1 year old. So that's like, to give you an idea, that's how new social media marketing was. And I was like, what is social media? And like, she explained it to me, and we became really great friends. And she referred me my first like 10 clients. Like, she referred me so many clients at the beginning. Yeah. She was one of those people that knew everybody. And now she's not even, I don't think she's even in the game anymore. She works for a really big marketing firm. It might be like HubSpot. I'm trying to remember where she works now. We're not even in touch anymore. But at that stage in the beginning, like, she was probably one of the most transformative people that I met. And her name was Caitlin. And then I would say, like, one of my next mentors, his name was Ed, and he taught me what personal branding was. And he was just working at my graduate school. Like, actually, this was while I was getting my grad degree. And it was during that financial bad time. Recession. There we go. My parents had a business, and while I was getting my grad degree, and my grad degree was in English, they were like, oh, like, Liz, we need help with marketing. So that's why I was like asking strangers on Twitter, like, what is social media marketing? And I was like, and then when I met Ed, who works at the college where I was getting my graduate degree, he was like, I have to fix your personal brand. It's all wrong. And I was like, well, offended. And then I was also, like, wait, what's my personal brand? And he was like, you're, and for folks listening that might be unclear what your personal brand is, it's of course what your message and your aesthetic is of how you show up online and communicate. And so for me, I was like a cute girl in a cowboy hat with like a cool Twitter. And like, I liked, I don't know, whatever I liked back then. I don't even remember what shows I watched, but it probably said like my favorite TV show and that I liked pizza and whatever. Right. And that was probably enough. And he was like, no, Liz, your personal brand's all wrong. So between, I think, those two people in the beginning, that was really transformative. And then over time, I've met really cool leaders it's leaders that really promote change, leaders and coaches. My coach right now, her name is Jessica Hetherington, and she's blonde. And so like if you see her, that's how you know you found the right Jessica Hetherington. But yeah, she's blonde. And like, what I really was attracted to about her is that she's so good at sales and making sales not gross. And so like if I had any weirdness about selling, and I did after I had my baby, who's going to be a year old in June, who you might hear occasionally. I'm hoping
you queued up the baby sound.
Yeah, right when I said that, he was like, ah, like in the background. I'm like, oh no. But yeah, I met her right after I had my baby, and she was like a really good coach for me to come back to like being business oriented after maternity leave. And then I would say my last favorite coach to mention is Hanukkah Antonelli, who she runs a lot of retreats around here, and her name is really complicated. So it's spelled Haneke, but it's pronounced like the Jewish holiday, so Hanukkah.
Yeah.
But she's from South Africa, so she talks real cool like this. She talks very cool, and yeah, she teaches all about my money mindset is her biggest thing. She's really interesting to follow.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, that was so long-winded. I just have so many people to thank.
Not at all. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's always, I'm always interested to hear like who have been the people that have impacted you, and you know, in what ways. So that's great. What's the vision for you, and what you're up to and what you're doing? Championship leaders have great vision and courage to take action on that. What's the direction you're looking to go, or the impact that you're looking to make here in the short-term future?
I think it's kind of like, and this is something that I think business owners gradually do, but accepting your role as leader is part of it, and looking at your business as not just a business, it's a company. So like treating things at a higher level. And this is kind of a mindset shift that I'm working on myself, is looking at like Liz Theresa, the company. And I also have a sister brand, Internet Fame. And so I'm in the process of like making it Internet Fame, the marketing agency, because Liz Theresa is a marketing agency, and Fame is kind of just like, was initially a service I provided, but now it's kind of like I've had to accept it's a movement. And that I'm able, I have my own imposter that's like, Liz, you're starting a movement. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
But my movement that everybody should rise and be the star. And part of it is accepting your fame, claiming your fame. And so that's something that I try to teach people to do, because it's something that I'm trying to do also. And so that's kind of the vision that I'm moving in. And it sounds funny to say, but it's definitely, I guess what I'm doing is I'm in a process of accepting and I think rebranding.
Yeah. Cool. I love that. Yeah. So and the more you talk about it, the more you put it out there, the more I think you're able to accept it and own it. Right. Like,
yes.
Yeah. That's who I am. That's what I'm creating. And there are people that are following inside of that. So
I know.
awesome.
And I get so excited. I'm always like, when I launched my own podcast, I was always like shocked when people listened the first time it came out. Cause I was like, what do you care?
What's the name of your podcast again?
It's called Liz on Biz. Yeah. I need to trademark that.
Yeah.
But I own the domain, so I'm halfway there. I'm getting there.
Check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I've been doing it since 2016, and I started it just because business was slow. And so I was like, oh, let's just start a podcast, guys. Let's just see what happens. And now I've been doing it. It's weekly. It's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. 2016. Yeah. That's a long time to be.
I'm a veteran of podcasts, not an actual veteran.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I did a podcast, and I did like a daily podcast. It was called Legacy Lifestyle on Blog Talk Radio. I did it with my iPhone, usually in my car. So like you'd hear cars driving by on the freeway, and it was super like not high quality at all. And but I did like 130 episodes, and then I just quit that. And then
daily is really hard.
It was, it was daily. Like I said, almost daily for 130 episodes. But it's still out there. Like I'll get reminded, Facebook memories will remind me of a post I made of one or something, and they're still out there in the ether. So you should check it out if you want to, like, you just start from where you're at. Right. Yeah. And then I started this one in July of 2018. So I'm coming up on 2 years with this one, but yeah, I mean, it's, most people I think start and stop these podcasts pretty quickly. Right.
I think you can burn out if the frequency doesn't match your lifestyle. is
Also,
kind of what it is.
it probably depends big time on what you are expecting from it, right? If you expect like, hey, I'm going to start this podcast, all these people are going to come to me, or I'm going to make some money through my podcast, and you're kind of not in it for necessarily the right reasons, it could be easy to give up on it before
Yes.
you really see any fruit from it. So yeah, I think commitment like yourself, that's incredible since
I feel
2015.
everybody quits everything too early.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. What is not necessarily that exactly, but
Mm.
um, what's a critical moment or maybe a defining moment in your time, kind of that fork in the road moment where, and I'm sure like, every time I ask this, my guests are like, oh man, I got hundreds of these, but
A lot of
you know,
forks.
yeah, is there one significant moment that you could think of where, you did make the decision you did, which
Hmm.
has you where you are today, but if you had not, you could very easily be somewhere different because again, I think a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners that are in that moment right now listening, it's just so powerful for them to hear others and how they chose and how, you know, they ended up where they wanted to be because of that. Because it's hard, right? When you're in that moment, you don't know. You want to know. It's kind of like, faith. Like, hey,
Yeah.
God, just tell me that like this is gonna work and then I'll go, right? And it's like, well, it's kind of the opposite where you kind of just gotta make the bold move and then you'll find out what happens from there. And I think the biggest thing for a lot of people to remember is no matter what you choose, ultimately you can still be all right. Like, because it's just the fact of taking action and moving forward. And then, if it doesn't work, then you just figure something else out, right?
Oh, yeah.
if
I
you
mean,
if you have that perspective, which a lot of people don't have that perspective. So
I think you have to. I hope that you do. I think it's easier to have that outlook when you're an entrepreneur because the entrepreneurship is betting on yourself in so many ways. And I guess like for me, one of my favorite stories to tell about my business and kind of what was this was my first big turning point. So 2013 this happened, so I was like a year and a half to 2 years into my business. Is that my now ex-husband, he and I were getting married in December 2013, and a month and a half before the wedding he lost his job, and we had to pay the venue like a lot of money. And like his job, he was the money maker, like he was earning like six figures working at a law firm at the time. And so I was like, I just figured he would just pay for the wedding because he had all this money laying around, right?
yeah.
And like my business was my business, but like my business was like little, and I was fine
Yeah.
with it being little because I was like, oh,
Right.
we don't need it to be enormous. And then at that moment he was like, maybe we should postpone the wedding, which looking back, red flag. Somebody says
Yeah.
postpone the wedding and you're
There's your
like, no,
sign
I'll
right
pay for
there.
it. No,
Yeah.
I think I was like, oh, that's so embarrassing, we're not doing that just because of this. Like, but like I think he didn't want to marry me, but like was too chicken to say it, so it is what
Yeah.
it is. But looking back I was like, okay, well, how do I make $14,000 in my business? How do I gross that? Because that was what I think I owed. It was about $14,000 to the venue. And then I was like, well, I should just sell a bunch of stuff, right? To make the
Yeah.
money. And of course, my business maybe only grossed that like in its first year, because businesses don't usually make a ton of money in their first year. It's just
Yeah.
like, you're
Right.
weird if you did. So you're weird.
Yeah.
Like, that's not normal. So anyway, so I was like, I'll just run a sale. And then I grossed $22,000 in 10 days. And I'm not making it up. That's actually completely true.
In your business?
In my business, using my
Awesome.
existing network by
Yeah.
running a promotion. And I was just, all I did was write emails to sell
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was all I did. And not even campaigns in MailChimp, like less complicated. Like I just
Yeah.
emailed people and I said, would you like to buy this?
That's
Yes or
incredible.
no?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I put a deadline on when you had to let me know. And that's how I closed it quickly. And then I paid for the rest of our wedding. And
Wow.
when I did that, it was like, it proved to me that I was like, I can totally make money. Like I can make money.
And
Like I
see,
know how
had
to
you not gotten
manifest it.
married, then you wouldn't have had
Yeah.
to do that. And then
Yeah.
maybe you never would have took off like you did. So
I
there's a blessing.
know.
Thank you,
Yeah.
ex-husband.
Thank you, ex-husband. Yeah. And I'm thanking his former boss for firing him.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
humbled
absolutely.
him, and it and it helped me it made
That's an
me
incredible
believe in
story.
myself.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
really proud of it.
Absolutely. I love it. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Um, as we start to wrap this up, like what would be one or two things that if you were to give the listeners today and they implemented it today, it would help them move their life forward today?
Your greatest investment is investing in yourself always. So invest in a coach that will help move you forward. Because a coach can really help you retrain your brain to start believing in yourself. Because you might be like, I believe in myself, but like you really don't. There's always a ceiling that you've put on your own potential that a coach can really help you raise that because you are your own limit for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Perfect. What are a few ways that we can find out more about you? I know you already mentioned your podcast, Liz on Biz. Is that correct? Liz on Biz podcast. So definitely, absolutely check her out there. And there's some talks that I might be a guest on that here coming soon. So also, where else can we follow you? I know you got a website and,
LizTheresa.com. Yeah, anywhere at Liz Theresa. It's LIZTHERESA. Give me all your money, buy everything, have a lot of fun, be my friend, do all that. Well, I'm a nice person most of the time.
And join the internet famous movement, right?
Yeah, internet fame Facebook group. It's on Facebook.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking some time today, and it's been great. I've had a great time, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Have a good day.